Hello there, and welcome to a very special episode of Electric Sheep. This is our 215 subscriber special, another big leap for us. Thank you to all my subscribers and viewers. So, without any further delay, this story is titled This Is Nothing.
This is nothing. He was 208 years old. That was the number people liked to use, the one that sounded impressive, mythic even, but it wasn't precise. It couldn't be. Time had stopped behaving properly for him somewhere around the fifth death. He had died many times, not metaphorically, not poetically, not near-death experiences or clinical flatlines followed by soft awakenings under hospital lights. No, he had died, ended, snuffed, gone. And each time, something refused to accept it. Not fate, not destiny, not some divine hand reaching down in mercy. Him. His indomitable will demanded one thing: survival. It wasn't noble. It wasn't beautiful. It was stubborn, ugly, relentless. A refusal so absolute it bent reality like metal under strain. The first time had been terror. The second time had been confusion. By the third, he understood the shape of it. By the 10th, he had words for it. I will not be denied. He spoke it once as a whisper, choking on blood in a battlefield long forgotten by history. His lungs had collapsed, his vision tunneling into a shrinking circle of grey. Darkness had taken him. But not for long, because something in him rejected the silence. Not violently, not dramatically, just completely. Like a door that refused to close. And so it opened again. He gasped back into the world, ribs knitting with a sound like cracking ice, air tearing into his chest as if it had been waiting for him. I will not be denied, he repeated then, softer, almost curious. He carried that mantra with him across centuries. Plague came. He rotted and fell, fever burning his mind into delirium. I will not be denied. War came. Steel found his heart more times than he cared to count. I will not be denied. Time itself came, grinding everything down, erasing names, faces, empires, but not hymns. When the world went quiet, when death took him gently instead of violently, there were no words at first, only numbness, a deep, endless numbness. And from that void, something else would rise. Not a declaration, not defiance, a need, a commandment dragged out of the deepest part of him, given voice not by thought but by existence itself. I hunger. It wasn't always hunger for food. Sometimes it was air, sometimes it was warmth, sometimes it was being, but it always brought him back. Every time. He would claw his way out of nothingness, not physically, not at first, but essentially, piece by piece, like rebuilding a self from fragments scattered across oblivion. And then, breath. Always breath. The first inhale was agony. The second, clarity. The third, victory. And after all of it, the dying, the void, the return, he would lie there for a moment, wherever he had landed in the world, and laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. Because after everything, after the terror and the endless dark, after the certainty of non-existence, he was still here. He would sit up or stand or crawl if he had to, brushing dirt or ash or blood from himself, and with a crooked grin that no amount of death could erase, he would say it, casual, dismissive, almost bored. This is nothing. And he meant it. Not because death was small, but because he refused to be denied the glory of living. This is the greatest enemy, death. The greatest enemy, peace. This is nothing.
Well, I really liked how this one turned out. Um, I wrote a much shorter story. ChatGPT expanded onto this quite a bit. Um, I wrote a story about a man who died many times but gave very few details on how he died. But this story spells out all sorts of relatively exciting scenarios or brutal scenarios, and at least one peaceful scenario. But as I was writing this story, before ChatGPT touched it, I had realized that this is nothing has a second meaning when you are referring to death. Of course, I meant it in the shit-eating grin kind of, this is nothing, like I've been through worse than this kind of thing. But I also mean it in another way. This is nothing. This is to face nothingness, non existence, the ultimate enemy. Because we don't know the nature of death, we don't know that death is non existence. So I see death as a great enemy, but I also see a death that ends in non existence as an even greater enemy. A concept that I just do not like. But regardless of what happens to us when we are gone, you cannot be undone. Even if someone went back in time and stopped you from being born in the first place, it wouldn't change the fact that they had to go back in time to begin with. That there was a reason why they went back, that your story was a story that existed. You can't undo, you can untwist the tapestry, but you can't get rid of the strings. Maybe you can get rid of the strings, but can you get rid of the fibers that made up the grand tapestry, that make up the strings that make up the grand tapestry, and atoms that make up those fibers, and reverberations and patterns, and so many things that make up what we are and what our contributions and connections to the universe are? Could anybody be erased? I don't think so. I think you have seen, you have observed, therefore you exist. You have comprehended, therefore you are. And you live, therefore I love you. I am Captain Canada, Joseph Arthur Roszell. I want to thank you for watching. I want to wish you all the luck in the world. I want you to remember that I love you. And I want you to know that suicide is never the answer. Peace out. For now.